In order to make this guide, I actually hired a freelancer. His name is Slipping Bug. One of the best Decidueye in the world. So I'm going to be skimming over this skeleton outline that he wrote for me. But I'm going to add my high level delivery to it. So let's go. At 570 HP and some of the best mobility in the game, Decidueye is an all-arounder type of character who excels in most aspects of the game if used to its full potential. Now, Decidueye's field phase is built to punish the other common field phase tactics, since its walk speed is great for avoiding projectiles, and with punishing with forward Y and with forward A is really good. So let me go ahead and demonstrate. Spirit Shackle and Side Y allow it to challenge other projectiles in the field also and hinder other slower characters from approaching. Up close, it's really strong with Neutral Y, which has very low recovery, and it has a 2-hit homing attack that can anti-air, and it can cancel it into Soaring Stance. Regardless of who you face against, Decidueye will have good answers for combating them and winning field. In dual phase, Decidueye can control the pace of Neutral with its walk speed and release Y, which is a really good projectile poke. This forces characters to be cautious when they're trying to approach so they don't get hit by the arrows, which is the release Y, or the 6X block string, or the 6A lunges, which can also be cancelled to be made kind of sort of safe. But either way, 15 frames here, 15 frames here, and 23 here. So this is some pretty good lunges. Characters also can't get too comfortable zoning against Decidueye because it has great mobility and has Spirit Shackle, which can combat these Pokemon at a distance. So jumping Y is pretty far, and the air mobility can go over a ton of projectiles. And then this, we'll talk about this in a bit, it has some aura that will go through projectiles. It also has a 150cc burst meter, so it can use that to take control when it's losing the match. And this is a full screen Whiff Punisher. Really good, and combine that with the increase to the already fast walk speed and burst and how threatening Decidueye is in general when it gets up close. It can make the opponent play very defensively, which can be taken advantage of by either just stalling or asserting your own offense with mix-ups and shield damage. Now there are really a few different archetypes that you can play Decidueye as. There's the defensive / whiff punish style. And this style is really for players who are very good at spacing and they want to guarantee damage off of opponents' mistakes. Abuse this walk speed just outside the moves that you want to punish on reaction to minimize the offensive guessing and increase the guaranteed damage. So for example, if I'm going to be poking at Braixen, I don't want to have to get too close. I can if I want to, that's a style of play. But what would be ideal for a whiff punishing style is to poke with things like release Y, and then use this walk speed and the pokes to bait out something like an 8X from Braixen. This can be done in field phase too with Decidueye's really good walk speed. Say I want to whiff punish that Boomerang. Man, that goes really far. That's kind of cheap. Now there's also the zoning / counter hit type of play, and this is good for characters who are not very good at punishing CA or dealing with zoning. So keep on shooting these projectiles at the opponent, and keep on mixing them up versus slower characters, and counterattack or counterattack backdash cancel a lot to try to bait out movement from them or bait out retaliation attempts. So if you're fighting like a Darkrai doesn't really have that many good answers to deal with this. It doesn't really have that many answers to deal with pressure, so you can really counter hit it a lot. Decidueye gets a lot of damage from his counter, so fishing for it isn't bad if your opponent can't do anything about it. And then we have the offensive and flies style. Now you want to abuse these soaring stance cancels and the good frame data versus characters who are tall who have bad armor options. Even though Shadow Mewtwo has good armor, this jump angle is pretty good against it because the armor doesn't do that much damage and 8Y is going to whiff on like a ton of this stuff. Decidueye's offense is really strong, and although it's not the best reward versus some of the characters, be aware when you can bully other characters with rising jump Y, and this is particularly against tall characters, or if they have very bad armor options to challenge your fast moves. So for example, the only armor option Braixen really has is going to be the light screen, and that's mid-low, so you can really just hop over this thing like all day. Its anti-air is pretty whack, and it's not going to hit you crossing up anyway. So those are the three main archetypes you can play Decidueye in: defensive whip punish, zoning counter hit, and then the offense flies. But let's talk about the top 5 moves in field phase and top 5 moves in duel phase. Forward Y as was demonstrated, it is an amazing whiff punisher that goes extremely far. It is unsafe on block, -12. But to be able to punish moves like kick the can from breaks in and a ton of other forward Ys, as long as you're sidestepping, this move is definitely worth it to throw at. And obviously it's going to be safe if you're using it as a whiff punisher. Neutral Y, this cancels into a lot of different moves, but primarily it's good for just locking opponents down. If they're trying to get right next to you, this is going to stop them. And depending on the range, it will combo into some of its specials, like Fury Attack. And this is a pretty low commitment option in general. We also have 5A. And Charge 5A. Now, what Charge 5A does, this is Spirit Shackle, it puts out these 3 traps, which knock the opponent down. And the traps will crumple. You can combo after that. Also, there's some aura when you use 5A that will actually go right through projectiles and nullify them. So let me demonstrate. That's super useful, and it shuts down the zoning of a ton of characters. So if you can get them to get their projectile just to touch that, most of the projectiles in the game you'll be able to go through. I'm not sure exactly the priority number, but I'll link a list of the projectile priorities. It won't go through like S tier projectiles, but most of these kind of projectiles, they'll just go right through them. And it just shuts down their zoning completely. So 5A it really gives issues to Mewtwo, Shadow Mewtwo, a lot of zoners in the game, honestly. It's very good. Also, there is Homing Attack. This can cancel into Soaring Stance, but more importantly, this is a 17 frame homing, which ties it for among the fastest in the game. I know Slipping Bug is a huge fan of this move. Really different Decidueye use homing differently. Just kind of treat it like all the rest of the homies, except it's way faster and it has way more options, and you can make it a lot safer. And then there's also Back A. Interesting that he has this in his top 5 list, but Frenzy Plant is like a DP. So not only does this not get stuck in hit stop very long, unlike a lot of the other command counters, but it comes out pretty fast. So if your opponent's like charging their last hit of the counterattack, then you're going to be able to go through that. A lot of moves that are safe on armor up close in field phase are not safe against that move. So if they're safe against counterattacks or a lot of other command counters, they're not safe against that move. And it's pretty good in dual phase as well, but it's not safe. So just keep that in mind. Frenzy Plant is a 15 frame startup, but is -41 on block. Counter armor for frame 1 to 14, so it has armor all the way up until the frame that it is active. And that's part of why you can't really outlast that move with like EX Heat Wave and stuff like that, because it has armor, and then it's active. There's no like vulnerable frames in between that. Now, I personally also like Release Y in field phase because I think this is a good move that if the opponents are not sidewalking, they're just going to get hit by. Slip doesn't have that in his top 5 list, but I do have it in mind. Anyway, let's go on to dual phase, where he does have that in the top 5 list. Release Y, really good projectile poke, 15 frame startup. It does have some travel time, but man, this move, it's a special mint. It's only -4 on block, and it will just tap opponents trying to get next to you. Clip them, it will make them stand still. It'll make them walk back. It'll make them hesitate long enough for you to walk forward, and that's really all you need. If you get the knockdown, you get the hit, that's a bonus. You get them to hesitate and stand still so you can control the screen, that's what you want. Then it has Jump Y, which now I will demonstrate that you can use this while rising as well. And on tall characters, when you do it while rising, you can still combo. Pretty good. This is a primary move to be using to jump over opponents' projectiles if they're giving you issues, and then to jump over mid-lows and lows as well. This move is plus on block. It really depends on the height and the range exactly how plus it is. It can actually be minus if you're going rising and then coming down, depending on the height, but probably the best jump Y in the game for all the options that you have after it and all the ways that you can come down into it. Next we have counterattack. This move, they actually had to nerf this because the vulnerable frames were so small, but they're still really good. If you try to strike into this, the way the hitbox comes out, a lot of times characters like Shadow Mewtwo, they'll be able to like 6x and then cancel into like Teleport or Miracle Eye or stuff like that. But the Decidueye's counterattack is just really hard to cancel into moves against it. Something about the way the hitbox comes out is really good. So charging this and CADCing back with its fast dashes is really good. Also note that this is a really strong forward dash that has some invincibility. It does not have a ghost back dash, but it does have sort of a ghost forward dash where it's invincible from frames 5 to 14, but the entire dash is only 17 frames. So dash grab is actually a stronger threat with Decidueye than other characters because they can be teching and they can still get grabbed, and it's fast anyway. And why that's good is if you CADC dash grab somebody, then they're going to have to be retaliating immediately before they even see the dash, and if they retaliate too fast, then you'll dash right through them, and if you let go of the counter attack, then they'll get hit. So CADC is pretty good, and you also get some meter for this as well. 6A, I think it's the best whiff punisher in the entire game. I think that it's even better than Lucario's 2Y, Blaziken's Blaze Kicks, and Shadow Mewtwo's 2YY. I mean, they're all in S tier, but this one goes the farthest. And it can be canceled into Soaring Stance, so you can cancel into like all kind of flies and stuff like that. Pretty good combo potential, but not just on the ground. You have to they have to already be in the air to really do anything from that. But it's an excellent whiff punisher. And then lastly, we have 6X block string. So -4, -8, +4. First two hits are true block string. The last hit is not true, but it'll still hit some retaliation attempts. Primarily, the best thing is a lot of people are going to try to counter against this, but since you're only -8 after using the first two hits, you can grab that counter attack if you just block. Now, all of these are mid-lows, and they all avoid lows on the first frame. So it goes over lows and mid-lows frame one, so let me demonstrate something. Chandeler's Overheat is one of the strongest and most difficult armored moves to deal with in the game. If you start trying to strike into this, you can just get hit for 180 damage. It's super annoying. But check this out, even at -4, still getting combos too. Super strong, just completely decimates that. You can go over Smog as well, as long as you have frame advantage. So it's a super good move for just hopping over lows, mid-lows, so it's a good anti-poke. I don't want to call it a counter poke because it doesn't really whiff punish anything, but if your opponent's poking with their best moves, that's usually going to go over it, and it's going to go over a lot of like command counters and stuff like that too, because a lot of them are mid-lows. And that is Decidueye's general game plan, the 3 archetypes that you can play, and its top 5 moves in field phase and top 5 moves in duel phase. Again, thank you to Slipping Bug for helping to write this guide, even though I did have to pay him 20 bucks to do so. If you want to watch all the character guides that I have made, every single character in the game, they're all on my website in my Pokkén Basics course, which also has all 11 chapters of Pokkén Basics in there. And there's other dope courses on that site, Shadow Mewtwo 101 and Pokkén Basics Plus, which is packed with amazing information on how to deal with every single character in the game. Thanks for watching. Peace.